Welcome to Innovation in Government. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guest today is Dave York, the Senior Vice President of U.S. Public Sector for Genesys. Dave, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Before we get started, let me set some context for our discussion today. In the White House's fiscal 2021 budget request, President Donald Trump plans to double his investments in artificial intelligence and quantum computing. The administration is asking for $2 billion in 2021 for non-defense AI. These investments are planned for everything from the Energy Department research to the Agriculture Department's Food Research Initiative to NIH using AI to solve chronic diseases. But if you go down one level, the federal investment in AI and automation are not as large, but still showing growth and understanding the value of these emerging technologies. One example, the Postal Service. They're deploying AI capability in 192 mail processing and sorting centers to increase package data processing by a factor of 10. This improvement would not be possible without machine learning capabilities that this technology helps deliver. USPS, like many other agencies, are using AI, intelligent automation, robotics process automation to improve the citizen experience as well. In fact, in a recent federal government RPA playbook, the Federal Community of Practice says robotics are the first step toward AI and intelligent automation. And the impact of these technologies can and have been real on citizens. The Community of Practice says because RPA automates tasks, not jobs, it's primarily a tool for creating capacity and reducing organizational workload. This allows employees to focus on higher value work while their digital assistants perform the standard repetitive work. So how can agencies take advantage of RPA, AI, intelligent automation to continue to accelerate their digital transformations and improve citizen services? Well, that's where our guest comes in. Once again, Dave York is the Senior Vice President of U.S. Public Sector for Genesys. Now, Dave, we've a lot of buzz around these topics, a lot of buzz around, we got to use more RPA, we got to go to AI. But let me back up a second and say, digital transformation, what's the talk around that? What are you seeing from government customers?
Well, digital transformation, Jason, is really focused on leveraging the digital channels, things like chat or email or the web, to improve the citizen experience so that it's no longer just picking up the phone and calling your local Social Security office or your local, or if you're calling to the IRS. You can actually perform many tasks online. In fact, some tasks only can be performed online. And that's really what a lot of them are focused on. It still creates, the challenge still remains of how to do that in a way that you don't just create more silos, more ways for people to get lost in the system.
And this is this idea of, in the last program that you were on with Innovation in Government, we talked about this idea of multi-channel experience. Right. And it's different than dual channels or single channels that are somehow, you can do mail or you can do online. Right. So talk maybe real quick and remind us when you talk about the multi-channel approach that they're all connected. So I can go to Dave York and Dave York sees everything that you've dealt with me for.
Right, and that's really what the true definition of a multi-channel or omni-channel sort of capability is how to take those channels, leverage the context across them so that you don't have the experience we've all had. You call in and talk to an IVR, or voice response system, you give it your account number, then you get to the agent and you repeat your account number. And that's because they're not transitioning context. And so that's really what the approach is from a digital transformation perspective, or the goal of digital transformation is.
How do you know we all get frustrated when you put your account number in, then you tell them again?
Because we've all done that more than once.
There you go. One of the things to create this omni-channel experience and to leverage, as you said, the context across all of them is the use of intelligent automation or AI or however. Let's first put a definition on this. When a lot of people think of AI, they're really referring to predictive analytics, or they're not really referring to true AI. How do you guys define AI?
So AI in the customer experience domain, you mentioned several different ones in other domains like the NIH and cancer research or chronic disease research and cures. But in the customer experience domain, we really look at it around a couple of dimensions. First is the dimension around the interaction itself. So that means using capabilities like natural language processing to understand the intent of the person calling or the person speaking or interacting with the agency. Then we go from there to use machine learning based on all the different types of interactions that have occurred. Use of the machine learning on those interactions to determine and make a prediction or a recommendation as to the best path forward. And then from there, you get to personalize the experience then for that, that citizen or that individual. That's one dimension. The other dimension is in the whole employee engagement, a term we use in the customer experience business. How do you engage your employees effectively? Because that's the single biggest cost and the single biggest touch point for improving customer experience overall. And so what we mean by that, how we apply artificial intelligence or machine learning to that, is that you can do it by scheduling the right resources, using AI to more effectively schedule the right resources at the right time. You can also use it to make the agents more intelligent. And what I mean by that is they get inputs from an AI capability that tells them what to say next, predicts the response, or recommends responses for them to resolve the issue that they're faced with more quickly. So those are some, and then lastly, you can also use still some of that natural language processing to review the transcripts or review the calls that have occurred or the interactions that have occurred to provide better coaching to improve the experience the next time and improve the agent's performance, make them more effective in solving their customers' problems.
Let's dig into each of those in a little deeper way. When we talk about the interaction using natural language processing, is that this type of thing where if the people keep asking the same question over and over again, the software learns what question's being asked, and then they can maybe get in front of it and provide answers sooner? Or what? Give me an example of natural language processing.
That's certainly one aspect of it, is understanding it and understanding what the questions. By getting repetitive questions, you can start to guide the conversations in a more natural way than you do previously. But really, at its most basic level, natural language processing is the ability to say, and we've all had this experience now because some companies are trying to deploy this. How do I, tell me what you want to do today? And then you just speak in a way that lets the system respond, and as more of a conversational method.
Sometimes you hear that with, do you want to pay bill? Do you want to say pay bill? Or do you want to talk to a representative, which is me usually, right?
That's really not that's
a half a step down.
A half a step down,
yeah.
Right. This is more making it more conversational.
The other thing you mentioned was the machine learning based on interactions, and that's as you interact, the customer interacts with the system, they're understanding and changing their offerings or changing how they present information based on the reaction of people. Do you see that? Is that happening today, or is that something that is adding that machine learning piece?
That's happening today. One real interesting way, typically in this business, what every company has been doing in this business is we provide business rules to determine a call comes from Jason. How do I route that call based on my business rules? Really, with machine learning, you can more dynamically route that call or route that interaction, because you look at it and say, based on what all the attributes of Jason coming into the system, how do I then deal with that? And based on how all people who present like him have been processed in the system, that's how I'm going to most effectively route or interact with him. And that's how I'm going to personalize then that interaction for him.
Is the machine learning piece the most difficult, or is the natural language processing piece the most difficult for organizations to come around? It just seems to me like customers, we all have accents, we all say things funny, we all slur our words, and so to understand what the person's saying from a natural language processing perspective may be tough, but then again, I could see it from the machine learning side too.
The natural language processing can be challenging, and there are solutions that actually do assist with that. I call it sort of human-assisted IVR, which is kind of at first you think that's kind of an oxymoron, but what it really does is it helps exactly solve that problem it helps the natural language processing system continue to learn. All of these are about learning, and machine learning, it's about learning what the trends and the tendencies are in whatever the data processing is. Natural language processing is just learning the trends and the when words are spoken in a variety of different ways with different accents, making sure you understand all those permutations as you go along. It's just a learning.
One of the things, the last piece you talked about when applying AI is around the employee engagement. As you said, single biggest cost, biggest way you can improve customer experience. Walk me through some of the ways that the employees, because that's not an area I would think of that you can apply AI to, but obviously you can.
Sure. So there are a couple ways. One is, and in customer experience, one of the most obvious instantiations of an AI capability is by use of a chat bot or a voice bot or something like that, an automated respondent. We've all experienced those. I get that every time I go online for Comcast. I get the chat bot talking to me. But there's a point at which I need to transition to a human sometimes. How does that seamlessly happen? Do I have to repeat everything and start over? And I've had that experience, not with Comcast, but with others. I've had that experience, but we've all had that experience where you start over, similar to the IVR example earlier. So that's very important to do that seamless transition. But the other is AI can really help the agent become smarter. We use a term called blended AI. And the reason we use that term is we don't view AI as the replacement for the human, but rather an augmentation for the humans. So it helps them with recommended responses, more rapid identification of information, rather than the person sitting there, and we've all experienced this at one point where you're sitting there waiting while they're typing away, researching something online. Well, with natural language processing, listening to the conversation, and AI tools, AI agent assistance tools, helping then sort through and provide and push responses or recommendations to the individual. It makes the agent much more effective and much smarter and much more rapid in responding.
So we've gone the employees, we've done natural language processing, we've done machine learning. This is all in the AI world. We also brought up the term intelligent automation, and maybe do we need to define what that is, or is that just AI with a different flavor?
It's a different flavor.
Is it a stepping stone? Meaning,
it's a stepping
a lot of times people say RPA, and then intelligent automation, and then AI?
Right. I would actually put intelligent automation and RPA as they're solving two sort of different processes. Intelligent automation is much more used for the front office customer interaction side. RPA is much more about, as you I think even alluded to in the opening, much more about automating the tasks,
right,
and getting those tasks done in the most effective way possible.
And in many ways, that's the whole idea, is freeing the person up, the employee up, to figure out, okay, this is a tier 3 call, or whatever help desk you guys use in terms of the call centers, to say, hey, this is the most complicated, complex type of call, add some human brain power to it, versus I just need their address to send my bill in, or I just need to find out what my final number is on my credit card so I can send the bill in. I think that's where an RPA, and that's been going on for years, can
right,
help out
right,
in many ways.
Right. That is the promise of AI, and it does have a dramatic impact on the human, and why it's becoming more relevant now, notwithstanding the obvious technological advances that make it more feasible, is we're faced with something. We're faced with a dilemma in this country, and the U.S. government's faced with it, as well as all the companies out there, where today, actually I think it was 2016, about 20% of the population was age 60 or older. That's expected to be a full third of the population by 2050. And more importantly, that's taking the number from around 70 million in 2016 over the age of 60 to almost 140 million in 2050. That's a challenging dynamic for the country to deal with. It's a function of an aging workforce, people that are either leaving the workforce or perhaps staying longer in the workforce. And how do we really continue to drive productivity up? The way you do that is you have to get more benefit out of technology.
Well, if I'm still around by 2050, I'm going to be that grumpy old guy pressing 0 looking for a human, I can tell you that much. Dave, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we can continue our conversation. You're listening to the discussion Innovation in Government, sponsored by Carasoft on Federal News Network.